Who were the biggest winners from the Cowboys' joint practice with the Denver Broncos on Thursday? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On
Cowboys.
Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, the next time that you and I talk and do a podcast, we'll be talking about a Cowboys preseason game. How much fun is that?
It's crazy just how quickly we talk about it every single year, like it suddenly it's training camp. Suddenly we're in the preseason. And then there's like a little lull, right? Like right after the preseason games before the regular season. But then we're fully in it. So we're close, guys. I mean, we're going to get some form of close to real football here in 24 hours that's going to have Dallas Cowboy uniforms. So I'm excited.
Can't wait. So that's going to happen on Saturday. Was it Saturday night? My schedule's all off. But Cowboys will play Saturday night against the Broncos. But maybe the more important part of this weekend happened on Thursday. Cowboys had a joint practice with the Denver Broncos. A lot of takeaways from that one. And let's first start with this one that I wrote down. CeeDee Lamb, absolute superstar in the practice. I watched the broadcast that DallasCowboys.com had. Multiple touchdowns. He had one long touchdown against Patrick Surtain. I mean, I thought he was a superstar in that game. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Dak and CD connection is not something that we need to be worried about, it feels like. I think at this point we feel like that's solid. That's going to be good. The question is obviously going to be the ability of Kellen to kind of scheme him open and find ways to get him open. But so far they didn't seem to have any problems with that against Denver. It's one practice, and we're going to say that, in regards to both the positive and the negatives, right?
It's one practice, but the flip side of this is one of the best secondaries in the NFL.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And you go out there, and I think the team, 16 total team drills or team, sessions they had. CeeDee Lamb had at least 5 catches in them. I mean, he just torched their secondary.
Yeah, and they're used to the altitude there, so
yes.
they don't have that same excuse. So, I think it's certainly is good sign. I mean, not surprising, but yes, another required prerequisite to getting into the season and having a dominant receiving force in CeeDee Lamb. Another hurdle has been cleared on their way to that.
Yeah, and I honestly don't feel like we need to spend a lot of time on this. It's just he dominated, right? I mean, he was fantastic, and that's exactly what the Cowboys need. Like we weren't nervous about this. We just needed to see CeeDee take the next step, and it seems like he's well on his way to doing it. All right, the other topic that I wanted to get to, the pressing one, was Micah Parsons. So we've been talking about Micah Parsons the last couple of days, kind of wrecking practice and just being dominant, but that's been against the Cowboys offensive line. And there's been some concern, hey, maybe he's just beating up on Terrence Steele, blah, 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 blah. He goes to the Denver Bronco practice, the joint practice, and absolutely dominates. I know Benjamin Albright, who covers the Denver Broncos, said it was clear he was the best player in the field. He won almost every single rep. Just more of the same from Micah.
Yeah, not surprising. Again, just confirming what we all thought. So there isn't a ton to say here other than that's not surprising. Yeah, that Micah Parsons came up and destroyed their camp too. I think it just, again, this would be called a drum beat if it wasn't, a drum line with Micah Parsons at this point. So I'm not surprised. I think I obviously, I guess I would be surprised if he hadn't done that in practice.
Yeah, I mean, if he didn't beat Calvin Austin or Calvin Anderson, I think is their right tackle over and over again, I would be a little bit like, was he struggling with the altitude or was it just a bad day? Nope. He did exactly what Micah Parsons has been doing all camp.
All day.
So nothing to worry about. But if the Cowboys want to be a playoff team this year, they're really going to need their stars to play like stars, right? Like that's kind of what I've come to. The depth just isn't as good as it was last year. You lost a bunch of depth in free agency and trades. So you need guys like CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs and Dak Prescott to play like stars. It seems like, I mean, those three, Dak, CeeDee, and Parsons, who all practiced yesterday, did great news.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that just kind of confirming the best parts of this team that are very good. That's always good to hear.
Yeah. All right, we got some injury updates to get through, but before we do that, I want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the actions happening right now. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, few injury updates. Ian Bunting, a tight end, hurt his leg, was carted off the field. I saw today a report that the Cowboys don't believe it's serious. John Ridgeway, their rookie defensive tackle, had some kind of leg injury, went down. He was helped off the field. Haven't heard anything there. And then the one that did surprise me a little bit, and I only saw it because I was reading DallasCowboys.com this morning. Tyron Smith had some kind of limped off the field at the very end of practice. I didn't see him practicing much anyways, so I wonder if the Cowboys were kind of being careful there. But any thoughts on the injuries?
Yeah, the Tyron Smith thing is new to me. I mean, I actually didn't hear about that. But yeah, I did notice that he wasn't practicing very much at all. In fact, don't think I noticed him in any reps, honestly.
He was in pads and stuff, but I didn't see him in a team drill. So maybe it was one of those things where, hey, he got his foot stepped on or whatever. But when it's Smith, it's something that we're always cautious about, right?
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, I mean, you just got to be careful there, right? Especially with kind of the uncertainty at the swing tackle position. You definitely want to.
Oh, I'm pretty certain what's going to happen at the swing tackle, but
yeah,
I don't feel great about it.
Well, that may be true. Yeah, I think Ridgeway, I'd like to know what's going on there. Bunting obviously is a down roster tight end. I mean,
practice squad guy.
Yeah. You don't want to see anybody injured, but if you're going to have somebody get injured, down roster tight ends are okay. Ridgeway, I would like to see.
Yeah, we'll
something.
See.
Yeah, please.
The fact that we haven't heard anything makes me think that maybe it's not super serious, because
I tend to agree.
Yeah, if it's something big, we probably would have heard last night or early this morning. But we'll keep you guys updated with all that information. Let's talk about the offensive line, because that's really the story here. By all accounts, whether you're reading the Cowboys beat reporters, the Bronco beat reporters, or you're watching the feed online, seems like the Cowboys offensive line struggled. And that could be because Tyron Smith was out. Could be because Connor McGovern started. Josh Ball did not play particularly well. Terrence Steele didn't have a great day. Again, are you concerned about this offensive line?
I think Terrence Steele actually did have a good day, honestly.
Okay.
And I'm not necessarily more concerned than I was yesterday, because I mean, the weird thing is, I don't know if you noticed, but they were really rotating in their offensive linemen. Like I would say that the times that I noticed where Smith was in instead of McGovern, and Zach Martin was in at the other guard, and they had like some semblance of the starting offensive line, whether Tyron Smith was in there or not.
Like basically 3 projected starters, right, or more.
Yeah, when those guys were in, they seemed fine. Like that's when Dak had time to kind of go through his progressions, throw the ball down the field. You know, it wasn't just coincidence that when Connor McGovern was in there, that they got beat inside quickly by Draymond Jones early on in practice. So I think, yeah, if you watch the early part of those team drills, they had Connor McGovern in. I'm pretty sure Josh Ball was playing tackle. It didn't look as good, but I think the guys that you actually are projecting to be your starters, they looked okay. I mean, I think Terrence Steele looked pretty good considering who he was going against. And I think that, Tyler Smith, held up very well when he was in there. So Yeah, I mean, it's not great. Like, you'd obviously like to see all these guys playing great all the time, but I think that, they had some. They're still trying to work out these younger guys, and I mean, even beyond that too. Like, they had not even just Connor McGovern. I'm going to use my roster thing, but they also had Braylon Jones rotating in at center, and they had a couple other guys that were like more down roster folks, kind of working with the first teams in the one. So. It wasn't a great day. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, overall, I wouldn't say it was a great day, but the times when they had the guys who I actually expect to start on Sunday were in, they looked fine. It's just, there was a big win early against the first team offensive line where, like I said, Draymond Jones got quickly inside of Connor McGovern and sacked Dak. There were some times against the run where guys weren't getting the push that they needed to.
And that was the next thing I was going to ask you. Is it just seemed like they were having a lot of problems running the ball, and that's one of my fears with a new look offensive line, like not having Lyle Collins at right tackle, moving on from Connor Williams at left guard. Like, are they going to struggle to run the ball early in the season?
I mean, the two guys you mentioned there, like, look. You can say a lot about Terrence Steele, but I don't think Terrence Steele is like a downgrade as a run blocker, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I mean, not a huge downgrade. I think Terrence Steele is a good run blocker. I think where he's got to develop more to be like Lael as a pass protector. And Tyler Smith, like, he's automatically an upgrade on Connor Williams in the run game.
No, Connor McGovern is not. Connor McGovern.
No, Connor McGovern is more of the same, right? It's just, I mean, that's why they couldn't decide between the two Connors, because they're kind of similar. I would say that Connor McGovern may be more powerful than Connor Williams initially, right? Connor Williams has got some good speed and quickness to him that Connor McGovern doesn't have. I think that Tyler Smith kind of has a little bit of both, and he's stronger than Connor McGovern. The problem with Tyler Smith is just still kind of continuing to feel comfortable with the playbook and learning, but I think if once we get Tyler Smith in there, like, he's moving people off the ball like that. I think the run game will solve itself quicker than the pass protection stuff, which, is actually kind of harder to learn, I think.
The other thing we should talk about is the defense for the Cowboys, because it seemed like, again, it's so hard to make takeaways from like 10 reps in practice. And that's why you should take all of this with a grain of salt. You really should. But the Cowboys struggled a little bit to stop the run. And that could be because, Ridgeway did get hurt. They were playing Micah Parsons more at the edge. But this is the one concern that I do have about their defense is if teams want to just run the ball on them, I'm not sure they have the answers there. What do you think?
I don't think we know yet. Honestly, all of us are basing how the defense did based on either secondhand accounts from beat writers who were sitting upwards of 60 yards away from the plays that were happening on that side.
I just mean in general, because I'm not sure, like, from last season, like the 49er game to now, that they've done a ton to upgrade their run defense yet. And maybe Anthony Barr will help a little bit because he's a little bit bigger and can take on blocks. And it's just, I still worry about the interior guys holding up against the run.
Well, I think the improvement didn't come from adding players. I mean, they added John Ridgeway, and I think he will help. But I think the improvement came from guys like Gallimore and Osa becoming stronger and becoming better players. And, you add in Barr as just another bigger linebacker, but you also still have Leighton Vander Esch. You're not necessarily wrong. We haven't seen any proof of improvement there yet. But we haven't seen any proof of anything yet. So I think that's the thing, is that honestly, the offensive takeaways, I think, are easier to kind of digest because we got a lot more footage of it on the stream that was live. We got a lot more commentary from our folks that were kind of sitting down there. I mean, anybody who watched the stream and saw what the people that were there were seeing from the defensive realized they were so far away that it's hard to tell what's going on. And the idea that they were giving up big runs when no one's being taken to the ground and all running backs always run to the end zone at the end of every single play.
Right.
It's kind of hard to decipher exactly how good or bad the run defense was.
That will be one thing I'm watching during the preseason game, because I think, we'll actually see some live contact and some live tackling. Yeah. I'm not going to panic if it looks really bad, especially if players like Micah Parsons don't play, which I don't expect them to, right? But I want to see like how do some of these defensive tackles like a Ridgeway or a Tristan Hill
hold up,
or a Gallimore, like how do they hold up? Are they getting dominated at the point of attack? If they are, I probably will be a little bit more concerned.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think at this point it's hard to truly judge how the run game on offense and how the run game in the defense is going to be in the regular season without seeing full speed.
Yes,
actually true full speed reps, not training camp, all pads where they're touching them up. Like it requires full speed to kind of see that level of actual true physicality that's involved in the.
And I do think they have options, by the way. Like if their run defense is really bad early in the season or in the preseason, like they could probably play more Terrell Basham as a right defensive end, right? Give him a little bit more size. They could probably play Chauncey Golston as like an oversized defensive end. Now you're trading off some pass rush help, right? When you do that, but if they struggle in the preseason, I'm not going to be pushing the panic button right away. I might just do it on Twitter just because I like to do it, but I'm not going to be super concerned about it.
Got to watch that McCool Mosher line, right?
Yeah,
got to make sure that they're not beneath that line where run defense is so bad that it becomes the most pressing issue on your team. Yes. I don't know that that's, I don't know that we're there. And honestly, I think the Cowboys just kind of ran into a buzzsaw last year with San Francisco and how their run game was really cooking at the time they played them. So, we've got a lot to still find out about the Cowboys' run defense.
Yeah, just a couple other little notes that I saw. Actually, what's the most helpful from this is I created a list that was only Bronco beat writers because I want to see what they think about the Cowboys players because this is the first time they've seen them. And one of the things that was like a consensus is they were all shocked at how explosive Sam Williams was. Like they just could not believe how quick he was off the line of scrimmage. I thought that was interesting. I saw a couple of beat reporters thought Noah Brown had a good day. Any other kind of little notes that you saw?
I will add that after all the talk that we've been having about these wide receivers not having, not dropping the ball, not having a bad day, Fahoku had a couple drops, I think, yesterday. Tolbert had at least one big drop that he would like to have back. But I thought Tolbert outside of that had a really nice practice. Noah Brown just continues, just is still going. And then for Noah Brown to have the day he did against that secondary again, that's something I think you can take away. That's a positive sign. So I think the wide receivers overall had a pretty decent day. But I think a couple of them slipped a little bit when they have been pretty consistently tight, throughout the last few weeks.
We just have a couple of minutes before we go. Is there just one or two players that you're really interested to see in the preseason game on Saturday? Because we know the starters, for the most part, aren't going to play. I would expect Tyler Smith to play. Yeah. What do you think? A couple series, probably?
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, I'd like to see some extended looks at him. I think, I'm interested to see just, the guy that I feel like I need to get a better grip on, and I think that's going to come through seeing him in a preseason game against, with some all-22 maybe, some end zone angles, is Tyler Biotish. I feels like there's times when I see him doing really good stuff, and then there's times when something happened and it happened in the middle of the offensive line, and I can't tell if that's Connor McGovern or if it's Tyler Biotish or if it's Tyler Smith or heaven forbid Zach Martin. So I think that's another guy that I'm really interested to kind of see. A lot of the interior guys like Osa and the defensive tackle guys too. It's just it's easier in full speed, full contact with actual better angles to see how those guys are doing. So I'm interested to see a lot of the kind of interior offensive and defensive line play simply because you'll get better angles, you'll get better reps, you'll get better opportunities to see how they're doing.
And I want to see the two tight ends, Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot. Like, there's just something about seeing those guys in pads in live contact where how do they look as blockers? Do they need to get a lot stronger? How do they operate in open field when they catch, a little PA boot, right? Can they quickly get up the field and make the first guy miss? Like, I just want to see those two tight ends. I want to see, like, is it possible that Jake Ferguson could have a role this year, or is he going to be more relegated to be like the third or fourth tight end on the team? Just two guys that I'm going to be keeping an eye on because I expect both of them to play a good chunk of snaps in this one.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, Ferguson missed some time, obviously, because of the hamstring situation. So I would not at all be surprised to see them really, give him a nice load on Saturday because they want to just see him go out there and see what he can do. So, we've kind of reached the other thing to kind of mark here, right, is that yesterday's practice sort of was the end of install and the beginning of purely competitive, showing what you got kind of aspect of training camp. So look for the competition across the board, not only in these games, but in these practices start to ratchet up as guys that are in competition for positions start to make their move.
We are getting back into the rhythm of this game preview stuff, and I almost asked you for a score prediction, but I felt like that was inappropriate for a preseason game.
Yeah, probably so. But since you asked, I'm going to say 28 to 6.
Scoring.
I don't know. It's who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Doesn't matter. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll be back here on Monday to break it all down. So the winners and losers. We'll talk about the Cowboys rookies because I fully expect, as we mentioned, Tyler Smith to play a bunch. Sam Williams will probably be on the field a bunch. We'll see about Jalen Tolbert and how much he plays. But should be a lot of fun. Thank you guys for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen today. Now make your second listen to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast by the intellectual fantasy expert Vinny Iyer, who brings over 20 years of NFL expertise and a unique angle to give you the moves no one else has. Get ready for your fantasy draft with Locked On Fantasy Football. You can follow our show wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube, Locked On Cowboys over there. You can follow Landon at McCoolBCB. I am at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy the game. We'll see you guys next time.